Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Thank you. My name is Andy, and I'm an alcoholic. Before I forget, I want to say it's a privilege to be asked to speak here tonight. Mighty grateful for my sobriety, and I'd like to welcome Robert if he's still in the room, and I hope he is. And also congratulations to the two ladies that took cakes. I thought they were both marvelous. One with 7 years, it's so young. That's not part of my story. And the other for 18 years for hanging in there, and that's not part of my story. You know, it was good to get here tonight. I'm a little nervous. It's been a wonderful day today, and I've been speaking since I got out of bed this morning, and I have a witness here to prove it. But you know, when I got here to Alcoholics Anonymous, I was pretty well shut down in all categories, and you know, and I think some of the nervousness comes from the fact that when we stick around here for a while and we're asked to share our experience, strength, and hope in a general way, as it says in the big book, it's an awful heavy responsibility at times to do such. And you know, my roommate George, as many of you know, is out of town, and he asked me to speak tonight, and I want to do a good job because the rent is due on the 1st, and may get back to him. But you know, the truth of the matter is that just recently I was going through my closet looking for my son's birth certificate for his job, and I found something, and I'll tell you right up front so you don't have to do the mathematics. I got sober January 26, 1988, and you know, I came to Alcoholics Anonymous May 5th, 1979. It doesn't add up in my book, and it shouldn't add up in your book. But a week before my first birthday, I had an old-timer from my home group, the Roxbury Men's Stag, stop by my house. He had 20 years sobriety at that time, and he presented me with a package of saltine crackers and a bottle of Martinelli cider and this letter that came from Old Time AA, and it was why you were chosen in the profession of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I put it away, you know, a week before my first birthday in January of '89. I put it away, and I found it about a week or two ago, and since then I've made many copies of it, and I'd like to share it with my friends in AA. And in reading such, the responsibility, the power that God has entrusted upon one alcoholic to talk to another alcoholic, to share their experience and strength and hope, hopefully to help another. That's not what my life was about before I came here. Just briefly, and I say this, I'm going to try and do a quick qualifying drunkalogue. I was born in Brooklyn, New York, way back in '43. That makes me 53, and grew up in an alcoholic household. And you know, and I say this for men in the room, you know, I was a bedwetter. I felt different. I didn't feel a part of. I couldn't wait to get out of that house. I joined the Navy at 17, and I thought I arrived in the world, and alcohol worked for me from my early teens on, and then it stopped working to a point that I was still willing to do it because the price to pay to drink to defend my right, whether it be lost jobs, marriages, insurance, financial loss or something like that, I was still willing to do it until I got into terminal alcoholism. And terminal alcoholism is when everything is going downhill rapidly and you're still drinking and your life is out of control, and it's, you know, the end is coming, and you just don't know when, and you wish it would have arrived yesterday. And that's where I was in the early part of 1988. Having come to Alcoholics Anonymous, not knowing where I was coming, I can tell you I thought I was going to an Irish wake. I was representing my mother at a memorial service. It was for an old-timer named Eddie Regan that was responsible for a lot of the stuff in the Pacific Group being what it is today, who was Clancy's sponsor. It was my mother's first boyfriend. And when I arrived at that memorial service, I was 3 sheets to the wind. I had a drink in my hand. I walked in the church courtyard. I saw a placard that had AA on it, and I was wondering why they were promoting the Army Airborne. I had no idea what Alcoholics Anonymous was. I had never thought of Alcoholics Anonymous. I met a very dear friend of mine, Jimmy Healy, who was a greeter at the door then. We're definitely good friends. I couldn't touch base with him. He's in town this weekend, and I remember walking in and I was saying, why all the cookies? Why all the coffee? Surely they don't know my mother's friends. And it turned out that a guy named Father Terry was leading the meeting, and I was sitting next to an old man named Jack Bailey from the TV show. I can use his name. He's gone to the big meeting. And he put his arm around me. I was with my wife, and I was wondering, how could this faggot reach out for me in front of my wife? And I was full of all kinds of notions and preconceived things about what an Irish wake should be, and this certainly wasn't an Irish wake. And when he said, hello, my name is Terry, and I'm an alcoholic, and 300 and something people said, hi, Terry, I looked at my wife. I says, we're in one of those AA meetings. And I can tell you I finished that job off in the Hong Kong Bar and Grill that night because I thought I was getting the bug. And, I came back to AA looking and poking and peeking about the early 80s on a court card, and then I found myself in a VA hospital in Long Beach for alcoholism. I wanted to commit suicide. I felt my life was over at 40 years of age, and I had lost a lot of friends along the way from Vietnam. I used to be a New York City police officer. I lost a lot of my partners. I have a son that's named after 2 of them. And they were all drinkers like me, and that's who I hung around with. I wouldn't hang around with, people that could do that sippy shit. And the bottom line was, when I got out of that VA hospital, I had preconceived notions that my drinking might be over. There might be a way. I understood what Francesca meant, or maybe it was Jan that had said, I thought I could find there was an easier way to do life, but I didn't want to give up alcohol. And, my half measures were a lot less than half. I had it nailed down that if I went to a Tuesday meeting, I sort of probably would get over the way I would feel over the weekend without a drink. And if I went to a Friday meeting, which was kind of extreme for me to go to 2 meetings in 1 week, that maybe that would get me through the weekend. And I heard what I heard when I first came around here. And I attended a lot of meetings in Alano clubs, and God bless those Alano clubs. They're part of my sobriety in the beginning, and the thing was, I heard a lot of BS in those places, especially in noon meetings and so forth. And I heard a lot of things that don't apply in my life today, coming up on 9 years of sobriety. For instance, like I heard that around Alcoholics Anonymous, you don't always get what you want, you get what you need. And for me, for over 3,200 days now, I haven't got what I want, I haven't got what I need. It's been consistent. I've been getting what I get in Alcoholics Anonymous. And the reason I'm still here tonight is because somehow through sponsorship and a strong home group and a lot of love and support from people like you, is that I've been able to get into application of steps, and I've been able to get into service. And I really have constantly sought out my higher power. I haven't prayed so much in sobriety as I have in the last 4 to 6 months. And it's been an ongoing thing. And, I was happy to see Don and Gail walk in here tonight from my area. And I remember when I was pretty new, and I was asked to speak at a Friday night meeting one time. I looked up at the clock, and it was 5 to 10. I hadn't even got through a drunk-a-log yet. And so what I'm going to try and do here tonight is, because My friend that's with me tonight had heard me speak a few weeks ago, and I don't have a canned pitch. I think the biggest blessing for me today was that when I got into the shower about 3 o'clock this afternoon, I said to myself, what are you going to say tonight? And the minute I said that, I stopped saying what I thought I was going to say tonight, and I enjoyed my hot shower. And if you're an alcoholic of my type, and you're given the burden, or not the burden, but the privilege and the responsibility to try and carry the message of Alcoholics Anonymous, just be a messenger, not the message, is the fact that if your head can get quiet for a few minutes, if you're new and your head is going, I know what that's like, because I was a newcomer for a long, long time. I beat myself up when I came back telling people I was a circuit newcomer. My job was to keep the old-timers sober. They'd see me coming back with arrows in my ass and everything else, and my war stories and my falling overboard drills. And I just had, my early coming around stuff was just horrific. When I think about some of those things that I just can't believe. And today I still have the same sponsor in my life that I picked up in 1984, and I remember the first things my sponsor told me. If you have a sponsor and he says to you, you don't look like an alcoholic, maybe you should sit down and ask some more questions, because my sponsor told me that, and I went out and got drunk that night because I believed he was giving me the privilege to leave the room. And it's funny what you hear when you first come around and what applies to you. I have found that by staying in the same home group for over 12 years now, that the fog has lifted, and it's lifted very slowly for me. One of the things that I'm most impressed with in my life today is my comfort level, and it's only come through the application of steps in this higher power. I don't know of any other way to treat what I have, this alcoholism. I'm grateful for the men that have pointed out that after periods of sobriety, I still have it. And sometimes my alcoholism grows with me in sobriety. And it's an amazing fact. I have to treat this. And the only way I know how to do it is just constantly go back to prayer, constantly try and get quiet, constantly plug in with the men on this program and the women. I do a lot of men's stags, and I believe in that old-time AA stuff. I believe in a lot of traditional things. There's a lot of stuff that we do here in Southern California that is not in the big book. And, in the 12 and 12, there's only 2 words that pertain to sponsorship and proteges. We call them babies here in New York. They call them pigeons, and there's a good reason why they call them pigeons back there. Same thing that happens to monuments in the park. And the thing is that, my gratitude list is a lot longer today than when I got here. And it's not because there's anything in my pocket or my negative bank account at the moment, or my employment, or in my housing, or what I'm driving, or anything like that. It's all on the inside. And the things that are going on in my life today, I wouldn't wish them on a newcomer. And the things that go on in sobriety for certain people are sometimes, after getting sober, sometimes your darkest days or your darkest hours may be in front of you. And what I've heard over the years in my home group is that, in sobriety, a lot of times we get to go to hell and back. And the good news about that is that you can go there sober, and men will walk through you, and women will walk you through it. And they'll take you there and they'll bring you back. If I want to leave and go drink, I get to go there by myself. And I may not get to come back here. I've got a sponsor that has the uncanny wit to tell me the things that I got to hear when I got to hear them. And, when I was in pain a couple of days ago over, I've gone through the finance end of my life for almost the last 9 years. It's been up, it's down, it's sideways, it's out of control, there's no control. And, I got to keep surrendering everything. Everything in my life has been a surrender. And there's a lot of people in this room that know what it was like for me when I used to go in and out back in the 80s and so forth. And I have come to believe that I think the longer that I stay here, I don't know how it is for you, but the longer I stay here, I have to keep getting into the surrender mode, and I have to keep into this prayer action. And sometimes a prayer for me is just taking an action that's so contrary to me. Sometimes just this evening tonight, I stopped to pick up a soda at a 7-Eleven, and I had enough time to clear the door and make it to the soft drink section, but I had enough time to also stand there and hold the door for a young kid or a young man, whatever it was, that it seemed like he had to pick up his pace because I'm holding the door for him. And those are actions they're very small actions, but these are the actions. I wouldn't give a shit 10 years ago if that door hit you in the ass or hit you in the head. And I don't know where these things come from a lot of times, and the amazing thing that seems to be constant in sobriety, I agree with myself a lot of times today, no matter what's going on in my life, no matter what it is, how I feel, what I think, what I'm doing, is that if I think I have a tendency to change things, I don't. And the fact that, I don't know how better to explain it, is that if the worst case scenario, whatever that worst case scenario is going to be, that one drink is only going to make it worse. And I don't have a fear of dying today. I wanted to die before I got here, but my biggest fear, I think today, if I had to tell you what my biggest fear is, to let you know the type of guy I am, or what kind of drunk is up here trying to tell you something, my biggest fear today would be to take a drink, one sippy poo, one beer. And it's not because I'd be afraid of dying. I'd be afraid of living. I'd be afraid of breaking the bond between Alcoholics Anonymous and me and my higher power. I would never, ever want to do that again. Having said that, the newcomer probably thinks this guy is probably off the wall on a Friday night. But the truth of the matter is, it comes down to, for me, I have a gift. I have a gift of sobriety. It's an unearned gift. It's a gift that was freely given to me. There's been times in sobriety, the shit has come down, and the willingness to stay sober has left. The willingness to show up at a meeting wasn't there. The willingness to call a sponsor wasn't available. To put out my hand or communicate and tell you what's going on with me. And what has happened in those periods of time is that I was advanced more grace. The grace was advanced to me not to drink that day. I don't have the power not to drink. What has happened is that I've been touched. If you're new in this room, it can happen for you. The only way I know it happens is through the steps. Through the steps, 1 through 12, it starts. I would say I wore the first step out in the first 18 months. Something happened to me, this powerlessness that I experienced. Was so overcoming that it applied to every area of my life. It applied to my family. It applied to my business. It applied to my friendships. It applied to everything. It applied to the weather. It applied to the world. In the first step, the powerlessness that took place was such a relief, such a gift. It brought me into the world for the first time. It brought me to people like you. The experience of the first step for a guy like me was that it got me into the second step. It came to believe that a power greater than me could restore me to sanity. Sanity for me today is simply soundness of mind. My mind is quiet, at peace, most of the time. thinking I never fit in this world. I wasn't worthy of sobriety. I was a piece of shit. I didn't belong here. I didn't deserve it. Not deserving something, you don't need it. And today, because of going through the steps, getting into action, having the willingness in the third step to be willing to turn my thoughts and my actions over to this higher power has got me into more action. Getting through 3 and going into 4 and putting it down on paper more than once in almost 9 years, as a matter of fact, twice this year alone, has given me more freedom, more relief, more recovery. I have a sponsor that's so program orientated, and he's a God man. And he's also, I didn't want him for a friend, but he's like a brother. He understands me better than anybody, I think, in this room. He's not the type of guy I would have wanted to go out and drink with. He's not the guy I want to work side by side with. But he's the man that I want to be in contact with for my recovery and my steps. To give you an example, because I think a lot of the stuff for the new people is that we explain ourselves a little more differently than might be in the 12 and 12 or in the big book. I've done a lot of inventories. I needed to do a lot of inventories. I had a lot of wreckage. I had a lot of amends. April this year, my employment was taking me back one more time to where I grew up. I had a 3-week work assignment in Long Island. And I was asked at a men's stag, well, how do I feel about taking this next trip? I said, I'm looking forward to it. It'd be nice to go back there. My job was set up where I was going to be working out in Long Island, about 30 miles from where I grew up, and staying with my brother on the evenings during the week and going to meetings. And I was going to spend weekends at my mother's house. And my sponsors, well, how do you feel about that? And the reason he could ask me that question so directly was because he knows what my 9th step was about with my mother. He knows about the financial amends, the personal amends, and a lot of other things. And he knows my whole inventory. And he says, you know, before you leave, I need another inventory. And I thought, Jesus Christ, I did one in February, and now my things have changed, and I got to do another inventory in April, from February to April. That seems to be an awful lot, but I was willing to do that inventory. He asked me on a Monday, and I finished it on a Friday, and I gave it not only to my sponsor, I gave it to my grand sponsor as well. The 3 of us sat in a parking lot on curb blocks outside of a men's stag at lunchtime, and the 3 of us cried on that last inventory. And that last inventory, I was asked to be very precise about my relationship with my mother, my 2 ex-wives, my father, and my son. As a result of that inventory, more recovery took place, and things were right with me in all areas. My relationship with my former wives and my mother and my son, who is still alive. And I got to go there, and I got to go there with calmness and peace, work my buns off, make money, have fun, be of service, be around the house. And to give you an example, one more time, is that I remember Friday, this one particular Friday right before I was leaving, the last weekend I was there, I had the craving. I love Italian food and I love seafood, and I had the cravings for clams in a half shell, which they serve so well back there, and I overdid it at lunch. I had 3 dozen. On the way from Long Island to Brooklyn, I figured I should do the right thing and get my mother some. I got 2 more dozen. I got to my mother's house. She said, I don't want them, I want baked clams. And so I ate the other 2 dozen, went out and got her the baked clams, and she says, they're not like Brioni's restaurant. You eat them. And I'll tell you, I thought I was going to go through toxic poisoning or whatever it is, that how you can overdose on clams that night, but 10 years ago or so, that would have sent me into a spiral. And I got to be there for my mother, and it was like that for 3 weeks. That was my experience. And I said to her, "I'll see you Thanksgiving." She said, "No, you won't." And she told me why. And I said, "I heard this song before, and it's not true. You're going to be okay." And I came back to you. And then I got the call, and I went back again. And I went back for a funeral and to bury my mother. And I didn't shed as much tears as I am tonight. I'm the oldest of 4, and thanks to my son's employment, and we were notified, and we were out of LA in hours, flying first class to New York, and we were there, and it was so different from when I grew up. I didn't see a drop of alcohol in my family. I brought a brother into this program. I have a brother that I've somehow got on the wagon, or he's got on himself on the wagon. I got a sister that quit smoking. And we did this funeral for 4 days and 4 nights in the burial. No hours were too long. No hardships were too great. No emotions were such that they couldn't be overcome. And we put my mother to rest. And I got to get on another plane and fly back here to be part of the roundup. And, you know, I don't know how an alcoholic of my type could do that without drinking. I just don't know how. And to do that with peace of mind, I had less butterflies in my stomach then than I do now. And I think it has a lot to do with God. I think it has a lot to do with the phone calls I received from Alcoholics Anonymous up to 2 o'clock in the morning, because people knew I'd be on that back porch looking up at the moon, smoking a cigarette, drinking coffee at 2 a.m. back there, which is 11 o'clock here. When you guys get out of your meetings, you gave me meetings over the phone. Women called me up and told me that, "Don't worry, if you don't drink, when you get off that plane, we'll be waiting for you." And surely there was thousands of people at the Marriott in South Bay waiting for me. It's a gift beyond belief, but I believe that one of the most important things for me was things were right. My side of the street was clean. Without Alcoholics Anonymous, it couldn't be that way. It's an amazing process. And, you know, the steps really kicked in for me, for the new people, when I started doing men's stag retreats. My home away from home is San Lorenzo. I go 3-4 times a year. Been doing it for 8 years now. I almost feel like I'm a part-time monk. It's a wonderful feeling. That's my home away from home. And there's a lot of people in this room that have been up there and know what I'm talking about. I get from San Lorenzo and through the steps and through the fellowship up there what no vat of vodka could ever do for me. It's an amazing, amazing gift. You know, right now, to tell you a little bit what it's like, is that I've made a conscious effort to make job search and job change. And one of the major changes that I'm going through right now is that I'm doing something I haven't done basically my entire life at 53 years of age. I'm interviewing, I'm doing resumes. One of the guys I sponsor is real great on computers, putting resumes together. But I still got to do a lot of the footwork. And, you know, one of the guys I sponsor came over for dinner yesterday and works for the Postal Service, and I was out of stamps. I would have been in a frenzy, but I knew Kevin would be there, and Kevin would take those 3 resumes with him, and I don't have to call Kevin. I don't have to ask Kevin, did you mail them? They're in the mail. I trust them. I have faith in people in AA. And it's a crazy time. It's a crazy time for me right now. I was running around shopping, and thank God for being in a relationship that I get to share my life with somebody. Somebody's there for me, to help me, assist me, and has to cook the turkey right. I'm good at loading dishwashers, but it's an amazing, amazing process. I was so much in the shitter the other day. I can't tell you. I wasn't thinking of drinking, but I was thinking other crazy thoughts. I was thinking of running, and that's the old Andy, that's the old MO, and it's amazing how it doesn't take much to bring back the past, and how important it is for me to always try and stay in the present. And I haven't been successful in doing that always. I'm good at telling you how to do it, and it's hard for me sometimes to take my own advice. I've had so many mentors around this program, so many men and women that have come to me freely and given so much of themselves to me. If I told the newcomer I think I've been spoon-fed this program, I wouldn't be lying. A lot of you know a deceased gentleman, Ken O'Brien. Ken O'Brien, oh God. I have so much fond memories of Ken O'Brien, but I got to be honest with you, we had a hate-love relationship. Every time I hear Chapter 5, the first word, rarely, that was the name he gave me. Rarely have we seen a person fail. I was rarely Murphy in Ken O'Brien's eyes. I think the nicest thing Ken O'Brien ever said to me was about a month before his death. I had about 3 years of sobriety at that time. He'll have passed away 6 years this month, December. He said to me, Murphy, you finally got it. He says, we got to spend more time together. It wasn't to be, though. But guys like Frank Priest down in the South Bay, who really helped me understand alcoholism, he's gone now. Tommy O'Mara. To the new guys, I'll tell you about a gift that I got that I didn't expect. During the LA riots in April of '92, one of the guys from my home group was driving Tommy O'Mara home every Wednesday night, and he left his car running to help Tommy inside, and his car was stolen in front of an apartment building, and he said to me, you think you could take Tommy next week? And I said, sure. I got to drive Tommy for about 39 months every Wednesday night. And when you got a 91-year-old man that's been in AA for about 36 years old, and he's as cute as a leprechaun, and he drank for 35 years as a taster for Jameson's whiskey in Ireland, and he's got that Irish brogue, and he comes up to about your shoulder, and you just love this man to death because you just got your grandfather back that you lost when you were a teenager. Tommy was quite a guy. Tommy O'Mara gave me answers to questions that I haven't even thought about asking yet. I don't know how to explain that to you, other than that Tommy would tell me something, and a month later I'd think the question. And 2 years ago, Tommy spent his last Thanksgiving at my house. And Tommy was one of these type of guys I heard at that first AA meeting I went to when they talked about Eddie Regan. Eddie Regan made the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. Eddie Regan passed on sober. Tommy O'Mara, to me, I've seen a lot of people pass on and go to the big meeting in Alcoholics Anonymous, whether it be cancer, heart attacks, or other natural causes that have made the program. Tommy O'Mara was my hero. Tommy O'Mara, with 36 years of sobriety, 91 years of age, spoke at a Pacific Group meeting on January 5th of 1995, sat down and passed away in the arms of 2 alcoholics. I don't think it gets any better for an alcoholic of my type. what a tribute to Alcoholics Anonymous to have that man give his last breath on a pitch. I should be so fortunate. I don't intend to die tonight, but I should be so unfortunate. But when I heard that story about Tommy O'Mara, you know, it's a wonderful thing to be able to pass that on with you. But there's a little bit more. There's always a story behind the story. I knew the two guys that Tommy fell into their arms. One guy is Tommy D from the Pacific Group, and the other guy was a newcomer named Eric at that time. They took Tommy to Brotman. And they're members of the Pacific Group, and I'm not a member of the Pacific Group. But I tell you that some of those Pacific Group people do some marvelous things. When they took Tommy, who was pronounced DOA on the floor of St. Augustine's, up there to do that's what you got to do. You got to take him to the hospital for the coroner. At the same time, Tommy was on a gurney. I don't know anything about when souls leave the body or anything else like that. There was two drunks in the waiting room. They were crying for their friend that was overdosing in the gurney next to Tommy O'Mara. One drunk left to go have another drink. The other drunk asked them why they were happy. They said, well, our friend just died in an AA meeting. He says, I used to be in AA. I don't know who the guy is, but I've been told by Tommy D and this kid Eric that he's in the Pacific Group today. Tommy left and a newcomer came in. You figure it out. I can't. I don't know if I'm getting into psychobabble or what, but I can tell you, if you're new and you want this thing, it works. It works well, in spite of drunks like me. I can tell you that you can have everything you want in your life if you're willing to do a few simple things around here. I can tell you that I'm about this far away from a drink a lot of times, and I don't have to have a drink. I don't have a choice in the matter. I believe I've been chosen to be sober today. I believe I have a responsibility to God and to myself and to you to shoot for midnight. And that's all I can do, is shoot for midnight. I pray that everybody in this room does the same. I pray that everybody in this room will be here next week and tomorrow and the tomorrows after. I hope if you're sitting here and you're thinking you might be in your last 30 days, I understand how you feel. I've been there. If somebody tries to chase you out of here, you don't have to leave. There's 2,800 meetings at least in Alcoholics Anonymous in LA. I know what works for me today, and I know what didn't work for me in yesteryears. I try and treat my sobriety as a precious gem. I like to keep it with me at all times. I never leave home without it. And I want to wish everybody a belated happy Thanksgiving. And I'm looking for more recovery tomorrow. Thanks so much.
Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So Pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst and one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.